So I wanted to start off this series on the channel by telling you why I created this company back in, I don't know how many years it's been. It's been a while. But, if you're unfamiliar with what Focus and Flow is, it's the product and apparel company that I created to share knowledge and information and really remind people that we are creators and we have the ability, by focusing and harnessing the creative power of thought and what we're focusing on, to either create a hellish experience on earth and recreate past ways of being and doing things, and therefore getting those past results that we've always gotten, or we can choose to think different thoughts, be different and do different, and create better experiences, right? We're always going to be creating something. And if we're not conscious, if we're unconscious, or if we allow those subconscious programs to run us and to continue to run, instead of taking them out of the hard drive and saying, let me look at this program and really see if this is going to bring me the highest happiness and joy and bliss and fulfillment and meaning and satisfaction in every area of my life. Let me examine it, because as Socrates said, an unexamined life is not worth living, because you're not growing, you're not living your life in a conscious, deliberate way. You may be living your life as a slave to the old programming that you picked up somewhere along your journey. And like Aaron Doughty says, that sometimes we pick up these ideas, these ways of being, ways of doing, and ways of believing, right? Self-worth, ideas, and they weren't even ours. We didn't even formulate them ourselves. We just picked them up. Remember, this is why it's so important to focus on giving children all of the nutrients, the mental nutrients, and the, building blocks to naturally create a prosperous, happy life, right? Excuse me. When you invest in children in those first few years by telling them, hey, you can be and do and have whatever you set your mind to, and through focus and hard work and smart work and thinking properly and doing properly, you can create amazing things in the world, right? You can do amazing things. I really do believe, and this is something that comes up in my own experience, that success is 90% mental and then 10%, physical, or 90% spiritual / mental and 10% physical, where it's actually doing the work. Part of it is creating the mindset that facilitates the skill set or the actual doing. And this, again, is coming up in my own experience. And so this is why I created this company, to remind people that it's much better to be a conscious creator than it is to be a unconscious creator that is at the mercy of beliefs and thoughts and paradigms about the world that aren't going to make you happy, right? It's heartbreaking when I see people continuing to do the same thing over and over again, and they know it's not going to make them happy, but they're caught in a loop, right? And so that's why I created the company. But as we're on this topic, I do want to share the actual first step that I believe is so important in order to change that loop. And that is to, first of all, change the way we see ourselves, right? Wayne Dyer said, if you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. And so the number one thing we need to look at, or we need to change before anything else can happen, is to change the way we see ourselves, right? And in my own experience and from my own work in this, remember, I'm pushing into my goals and dreams in multiple areas of life, just like you are. And again, these tools are tools that I created to help me do that. Systems and processes and thought tools to change the way I see the world, see myself, and change the way that I think about the world, and then ultimately act about the world. But it comes down to changing the way we see ourselves first. And the most first and foremost is Do you see yourself as a successful person? Can you see yourself as a successful person, right? Until we see ourselves as being a successful person and play that mental movie over and over in our mind of us engaged in the process, not just enjoying the outcome, because we will skip that gap, of us engaged in the process of being that successful person and doing successful things and experiencing success, right? On a day-to-day, moment-by-moment basis. See, those are the stepping stones that lead us to having success, right? Being successful and doing successful things in all of the 8 areas of life, as you'll learn about in the guide, will ultimately help us have the success that we want. And one common theme that comes up over and over again on my own journey is this idea that how you do one thing is how you do everything. If you look at the areas of your life, the eight different areas, you can see you're the center of your life, right? This is why I start with the first pillar or level of your life is personal development. Everything else builds off that, and then it does go into a pyramid, because at the very end is what you're going to give back, right? But personal development is the foundation, because everything builds off that, right? Your relationships, your business, your the travel and leisure aspect of your life. It's hard to name those 8 off, but there's 8 areas. I sometimes lose my train of thought there, but the bottom one is the personal development. And when we work on ourselves, everything flows into those other areas, right? So, long story short, success, I believe, is 80% or 90% mental and 20 or 10% actually getting out there and applying, because it's very similar to, I believe, what Stephen Covey said. Or I don't remember who it was. Some famous person, Stephen Covey, talks about sharpening the saw, and another famous person, I want to say it was a president person or person in politics, maybe Abraham Lincoln, I can't remember, or Einstein. How would you approach cutting down a tree? Well, someone said they would spend, the majority of their time sharpening that saw and studying maybe how to cut it, where to cut it, learning, growing, and then 10%, 20% actual doing the cutting. Whereas some people are just going to go start cutting down the tree with the same mindset, not a sharp saw, no technique, no skill, no prior planning. That's not the best way to start. And then they're going to wonder, hey, why am I not getting the results of this other guy who spends a bunch of time sharpening his saw, other guy or gal, a bunch of time sharpening his saw or her saw, and just goes through it like butter. The other example that I will give to this about this 90% mental, and I talk about this in the guide series, I've talked about this in my book, Just Be It, as well. I have experienced in my life profound results way outside of my level of what I thought I could do, simply by changing the way that I'm talking to myself, and simply by giving myself a game to play that is, be this way, and fill in the blanks, be more focused, be bold and determined, and push yourself outside, be hard on yourself, so to speak. Be a hard charger. Try to go the extra mile. Like if you think you can do 10, this particular thing, whether it's a work-related thing or a physical-related thing, try to do 12 or try to do 13. Push yourself outside of that. And you'll be surprised how much you can accomplish. And like I said, I surprised myself. And that's why I'm a big proponent of this idea of playing the being game. Being is your superpower. P.S. If you don't have that free download, you can find it at justbeitbook.com. Being is your superpower. So making a conscious decision to be a certain way can have profound and lasting effects on your experience in life. It's super beneficial. But that's another example of success being the majority, 90% mental. And that's thinking of ourselves, in a different way. But that's why I created the company. And that's why I am so passionate about this, because these are thought tools that we all need in order to experience more success in our business and our life. And I just wanted to package them up in a certain way and ship them off because I need these tools. I'm a firm believer in this. And also in the guide talks about helping you find your creative venue or your creative vehicle to not only express yourself, but also to serve the world and then receive compensation and or the benefits. When we serve, there's an opportunity to receive, right? When we give, there's an opportunity to receive, and you can receive back benefits in many different areas. Just one of them is financial, but there's relationships and, philanthropy work and benefiting society as in general, but many different ways to receive back feeling of, satisfaction and meaning and fulfillment. That's the first basis level when you're doing the work that you came here to do. And by the way, to find out what that is Discover Your Purpose, the module within the guide, where I've collected, I think currently there are 41 different ideas to help you know what your purpose is. Because until you know what your purpose is, how you're meant to serve in the world, you might be off the mark a little bit. We always want to be as close to doing the thing that we are built to do. That's one of the ideas. How are you built? Right? How is your body built? How is your mind built? How are you emotionally built? And how are you spiritually built? Different people are built in different ways for different purposes. And that's one of the key proponents. Again, that's one idea in the module, How to Discover Your Purpose. But, because at the end of the day, we want to be able to be on our purpose. So that's why I created the Focus and Flow company and the products and apparel that are in there, and specifically the digital download, to help you get what you want, create a better life, have better experiences, go to war with the programs or the thoughts in your head and say, you know what, do I want this thought to manifest? Do I want this thing to manifest? Right? It's a battleground in the mind, right? We are constantly coming up against old programs, outdated beliefs, maybe even they weren't our beliefs in the first place. But we want to be able to shed that off so we can show up in a fully authentic way in every experience of our life and not bring that old baggage. That old baggage can come in and sabotage our relationships, our business ventures, our health and well-being, all of the different areas of our life. It can sabotage travel and leisure. And we want to fully experience all that this life has to offer and make sure that we're living the most rich, full, meaningful, satisfying, helpful life that we can, right? And not perpetuating suffering in the world. And boy, have I been guilty of doing that on plenty of occasions. And sometimes it takes, speaking from experience, 3 or 4, 5 times before you're like, you know what? I'm going to drop this thought. I'm going to drop this way of being and these things because they're not creating the experiences that I want in life, right? I'm going to drop this. Remember, it starts with a thought. Everything starts with a thought. Thoughts lead to, well, let me make sure I have this right. This is T. Harv Ekker's work. Thoughts lead to actions. Actions lead to results. That's the simple way. There's another 4-layer way in there, but thoughts lead to actions. Actions lead to results. And unless you want, this is why we always want to start at the end and say, okay, what do I want out of life? What do I want out of all these areas specifically, right? Let's talk about just the relationships. I want healthy, loving, supporting relationships in my family, my friends, and my lovers. I want all that stuff. And in order to do that, there are certain thoughts or things that I'm going to not focus on so much, right? I'm going to be aware of their potential limitations, their potential flaws, their potential things that they're working on. But unless you want to eliminate all of your family and friends, I would highly recommend not to focus on too much on the things they do when they do you dirty, so to speak, right? And again, I'm speaking from experience, and I feel very fortunate to know this stuff and not repeat those same mistakes over and over again, because they are mistakes. Whatever we're focusing on, we are activating within us. That's why. Are you successful? What do you want out of life, right? All of you, we've got to start with that end game and then work backward from there, and then weed out the patterns of thinking and behaving that aren't in alignment with that. That's what we need right there. All right. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Please feel free to subscribe here on YouTube or anywhere on social media. And until next time, I wish you all the best health, wealth, and success. Bye-bye.